I'm Thom Hartmann in Washington, D.C., and welcome to The Big Picture. Earlier this week, Wikileaks released thousands of pages of secret CIA documents. Dubbed Vault 7, these documents reveal, among other things, that the CIA has the ability to hack into your smartphone, your television, maybe even your car. For more of the startling revelations from Vault 7 leaks, I'm joined now by two people who know this topic better than anyone. John Kiriakou is a former CIA agent as well as a whistleblower who went to prison for exposing that agency's illegal torture program. He's also the author of the forthcoming book, Doing Time Like a Spy, How the CIA Taught Me to Survive and Thrive in Prison. Also joining me tonight is journalist and author James Bamford, who wrote the best-selling classic, The Shadow Factory, the ultra-secret NSA from 9/11 to the eavesdropping on America, among other books. John, James, it's a great honor, actually, to have both of you here with me tonight.
Thank you so much.
And,
Terrific. Thank
and this is a topic into which I really wanted to do a deep dive, so we're going to do it for the half hour. John, if I can start out with you,
Sure.
walk us through this. What has WikiLeaks, in fact, revealed here? What is the relevance of this?
WikiLeaks has told us definitively, in my opinion, that the CIA can hack our iPhones, they can hack our Google Android phones, our Samsung smart TVs, perhaps even our cars. And this is really in defiance of any logic, American laws. It struck me when I first read the documents how less than a year ago the FBI was paying apparently millions of dollars to hackers to help them get into an iPhone owned by the San Bernardino shooter, when in fact the CIA had already hacked the iPhone and was not even sharing that information with the FBI. One of the things that I think hasn't been addressed, that I think is very important, is with this information, is the CIA spying on Americans? Are they hacking our iPhones and our Android phones? We just don't know.
Yeah. Now, you said that the CIA can. Does that mean that they may? I mean, does that mean that they have the technical capability or the legal ability?
Well, they've apparently had this technical capability at least since 2013, according to WikiLeaks. So my guess is as soon as they figured out they could do it, they implemented it. I think we should assume that they've been doing this for years.
Yeah. James, these documents are mostly technical in nature, but given recent revelations from the NSA and the Snowden documents and everything else, how solid do you think all this is? How real, how confident should we be that A, this is all real and these are capabilities, and B, that the CIA wouldn't use them against people in the United States? I know the CIA always used to say, we're barred from law doing domestic surveillance. I seem to recall during the Bush administration there was some wiggle room given to them, but I frankly don't recall the details. Maybe I'm not even recalling it right. If you could set me straight here.
Right. Well, they're not supposed to do any spying within the United States. What struck me about this, just apart from the technical side, which is very detailed, but the whole idea that all these things are leaking out so much. So we've got millions, actually more than 500 million pages of documents have been lost in the last few years.
Lost as in intercepted, or lost as in vanished?
The NSA and the CIA have lost these pages. Now, what was lost here, what was given to WikiLeaks, was details about how you hack into these phones and so forth. Now, if the security is so bad at the CIA, who knows who else might have gotten this information? If it's so easy to get that out of the building, this information could be going to hackers or to criminal gangs that are using this material to hack. Or
foreign government.
Right. So you're building up these systems, these tools, in order to break into telephones and TV sets and other things. Now, the CIA says we aren't using it domestically. But if all this stuff is getting out, Hal Martin, who worked for the number of contractors for NSA and so forth, was arrested last year for exfiltrating, taking out of the agency 50 terabytes. That's 500 million pages of material. And some of that were tools also. So you get all this stuff coming out of the intelligence community that could be used against us. and we're supposed to feel safe because of that.
Yeah, and these are, at least from what Julian Assange said, these are actually weapons. I mean, these are potentially tools of war, are they not?
Well, the weapons are the kind of cyber. Well, the cyber weapons are what was used against Iran, the Stuxnet and so forth. So these are more defined as tools, tools for getting into telephones as opposed to weapons which destroy physical objects, and that's what happened with Stuxnet.
Although the idea of hacking a car, that could indeed be a weapon. That can be an assassination tool. If you can hack into a car's autopilot feature and drive a car, you know, off the road, into a tree, off a cliff, a bridge, whatever, and they're not having any record of it, I would call that an assassination tool.
I remember a reporter in Los Angeles whose car went out of control, and I'm blanking on his name, but it was, ended up hitting a tree and killing him.
Yeah.
Well, that was the reporter for Rolling Stone that did, did the articles on Michael Hastings, I think it was.
Michael Hastings, yes.
That's right.
Right, he did all the fantastic reporting from Iraq on General, I forgot what his name was, who had to resign after that.
Crystal. Yeah. It's not to say that that was necessarily an assassination or that it was done by the CIA or anything, but that's the kind of thing that could happen. Yeah, and that's pretty amazing. James, to follow up, here's a clip from former CIA Director Michael Hayden talking about Vault 7.
There are people out there that you want us to spy on. You want us to have the ability to actually turn on that listening device inside the TV to learn that person's intentions. This is a wonderful capability.
So,
wonderful capability. What your response to General?
Well, it's ironic that Michael Hayden's saying that, since he violated the law in the first place in bugging Americans on behalf of the Bush administration during the after 9/11 and so forth. It went on for years. So, but yeah, the problem is that you've got an agency here. You've got so many agencies that are involved in cyber now. The NSA is enormously involved in cyber, planning cyber tools, are using cyber tools to get in a lot of different places, including places in the United States. You've got Cyber Command, which is actually using cyber as weapons around the world in case of a war or even conflicts different places. And now you've got the CIA developing all these new tools and potential weapons to use for cyber. But, you know, where's the oversight on a lot of this? You know, there's very little oversight, but we've got an awful lot of material that could be used against us or may be used against us now.
Now that the, and James, I remember your first book, Puzzle Palace, reading it back in the 80s, as I recall.
82, right.
Yeah, it blew my mind. It was an extraordinary, and I think it was really the first tell-all book about the NSA.
Yeah.
You know, we always thought of the NSA as the guys who were listening in, and the CIA as the guys who were talking to the spies and running foreign intelligence. But now the CIA has their own military drone program. I don't know if the NSA does. You know, this is not totally.
Well, the drones use a lot of what's on the drones are cameras, but also signals intelligence. In other words, eavesdropping. Right. They do a lot of eavesdropping with the drones, but they're run by the CIA.
So are the lines between these two agencies getting blurred?
Well, the division of the lines is that NSA uses all its cyber activity to go out and plant malware over 1 million places now, according to one of the Snowden documents. Malware in large cross points in the telecommunications world in order to try to scoop it all up. That's the NSA's job. The Cyber Command's job is to launch cyber weapons, to actually use the cyber as an offensive weapon to destroy things or break things, whatever. And the CIA is to, well, the Cyber Command does it during a time of war, supposedly, or where we have authorized actions. The CIA is used for covert operations. That's why CIA was used for the Stuxnet operation against Iran. And where the NSA goes for the big picture, the whole networks and so forth, the CIA has been developing these individual hacking tools to get into individual phones that actually bypass the encryption. People think that, you know, if you have end-to-end encryption that you're protected, but if somebody actually can get something into your phone or into your computer that bypasses the, or that intercepts the communications before it gets encrypted. In other words, when you're typing on a keyboard,
just grabs it.
Yeah, and if you're typing on a wireless keyboard and you have a Bluetooth and you have something that picks up the Bluetooth between the keyboard and the computer, then it's not encrypted. You're just, you know, hitting the letters the way the person's going to read them.
Yeah, it's remarkable. John, you were in the CIA. How different is the CIA now from what you know of it from the agency that you left?
Unrecognizable. You know, for so many years, for many decades, the role of the CIA was very simple. It was to recruit spies to steal secrets and then to analyze those secrets to provide the best possible information to the policymakers to then make the best possible policy. Now it's a paramilitary organization, it's a cyber military organization. They have their hands in everything. And now when we think of CIA and CIA officers overseas, we don't think of a James Bond-like character at a diplomatic cocktail party going after a Russian or an Iranian. We think of drone operators, we think of people working in cubicles writing malicious code, and we think of what we're learning now from the likes of WikiLeaks and Ed Snowden. Yeah. It's a completely, totally different place than it was even 10 years ago.
It's remarkable.
One other problem with that is that, you know, we've got all the drones over Afghanistan, Iraq, Yemen, and all these other places that are really sophisticated drones now. I mean, spotting people on the ground, following them, and so forth. Now, once these conflicts wind down, if they do, which hopefully they will, but once they wind down, they're going to be coming back to the United States. And a lot of law enforcement organizations are going to want to use those in the United States.
This is the same thing we've seen with all these weapons of war, all the guns.
Exactly,
and SWAT teams are now full.
Right, and these companies have that financial capability, or these states now have the financial capability to buy these things.
Right, and the defense contractors are going to want to continue manufacturing them. More with John Kiriakou and James Bamford right after the break.
What politicians do is something we don't do. They put themselves on the line, and they get accepted or rejected. So when you want to be president, why would you want to be? Why would someone want to be president? What's it like to be president? What's it like when the phone rings at 3 in the morning? Can't be a good call. I'm interested always in the whys and the hows.
And Q. Leary. Question more.
Our culture is awash in lies, dominated by streams of never-ending electronic hallucinations that merge fact and fiction until they are indistinguishable. We have become the most illusioned society on earth. Politics is a species of endless and meaningless political theater. Politicians have morphed into celebrities. Our two ruling parties are in reality one party, the corporate party. And those who attempt to puncture this vast, breathless universe of fake news designed to push through the cruelty and exploitation of the neoliberal order are pushed so far to the margins of society, including by a public broadcasting system that has sold its soul for corporate money, that we might as well be mice squeaking against an avalanche. But squeak we must.
I'm Wolf Blitzer, you're in the situation. Time now for the Now for the ridiculous. Elect Republicans and they will burn the place down.
This is my problem with liberals.
I'm the resident. Let's talk about that.
And welcome back to The Big Picture. I'm talking about the Vault 7 CIA hacking leaks that with CIA whistleblower John Kiriakou and journalist James Bamford. James, you were just talking about how some of this stuff, these weapons of espionage, are now coming back to the United States.
Yeah, they're just like we've had tanks come back and armored personnel carriers and so forth, and you have local police departments now getting some of these armored personnel carriers. Well, we've got these drones that have been developed that are enormously sophisticated because of they've been used in wars for now 15 years or so. As things quiet down, if we start pulling back from the Middle East, we've got all that technology that is probably going to go to local police departments, state police offices, or the FBI, and the problem is we don't have a legal infrastructure for regulating these things. There's a fair number of regulation now on eavesdropping because of all the eavesdropping scandals, but there hasn't been any scandals yet on the overhead imagery, and therefore there is no real focus on creating laws preventing that. And so that's an area that I think that Congress should start looking into.
Yeah, that is remarkable. John, I want to play a clip from Julian Assange yesterday and get your take on it. Here it is.
The CIA developed a giant arsenal, what appears to be the largest arsenal of Trojans and viruses in the world that attacks most of the systems that journalists, people in government, politicians, CEOs, and average people use, didn't secure it, lost control of it, and then appears to have covered up that fact.
So what does Assange mean when he says the CIA has lost control of these tools?
Once a virus is out there, once it's infected a computer or a system, it's out there, and it's not in the CIA's control anymore. Now, by their very nature, these are unclassified malicious programs, right? You can't classify it because your intent is to put it out there. Let's say you want to infect a system in the Middle East or somewhere in the former Soviet Union. Once it's in that system, you've utterly lost control of it. And that's what's happened in cases like the Stuxnet virus, for example. And God knows what other malicious programs the CIA has put out there.
Hasn't the Stuxnet virus been re-weaponized a couple of times?
Yes, it has. It comes back now every 18 months or 24 months.
You know, yeah. And that was one of the problems. The CIA or the intelligence community gave their word of honor to the president that these things will never escape once we put them in where they're going in Iran and to attack the centrifuges. And they did escape, and they attacked, I think it was 100,000 computers in the area. It didn't destroy them, but it did affect them. So these things, you know, the intelligence community promises one thing, and the next time you look at it, they've escaped.
So James, how should, in your opinion, and I want to get your opinion on this too, John, how should Congress, you know, the lawmaking branch of government, how should they be, what kind of metrics, what kind of corridors, barriers, what should they be putting in place with regard to oversight of this spectrum of technology?
Well, I think the problem is that a lot of the people in Congress don't have much of a technical background. They're in there with backgrounds that don't lend themselves to knowing much about cyber or how this works. And then there aren't that many of them. And then those that are in there, I don't think have the intention of really protecting the public that much. They're in there because a lot of their constituents happen to be defense contractors who are making a lot of money creating these things. It was much different back in the 70s when Frank Church created basically the intelligence community, or the intelligence committees, and then his idea was to stand between the intelligence community and the public. And now it's pretty much the intelligence committees are there to protect the companies and the agencies from the public.
Yeah, it's a kind of regulatory capture. John, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that we have a serious problem where it comes to oversight. You know, Frank Church is gone, Otis Pike is gone, and the likes of Mark Warner and Oregon, Ron Wyden just can't stand up to what the earlier generation of oversight leadership
Which is
did.
not to say they're not trying. Ron Wyden has been so outspoken.
He's worked as hard as he can. And same with Mark Warner. They work as hard as they can. But there's no institutional will to really stand up to the CIA on Capitol Hill. You know, when you look at Dianne Feinstein, for example, or Richard Burr, they are literally nothing more than cheerleaders for the intelligence community.
And yet
That's not oversight.
Feinstein was hacked by the CIA, wasn't it?
And that was
when
the
she was
only
investigating
thing,
the
that's
CIA.
right, and that's the only thing that turned her around. And that really wasn't, her anger, her ire wasn't directed necessarily at the CIA as much as it was directed at John Brennan.
Because?
Because it was Brennan that ordered the hacking of the Senate's computers.
And then he lied about it.
And then lied about it.
Remarkable. Which all, I think, is more evidence of need for oversight, even if it's highly classified and we never know about it.
And this is an ongoing theme. You know, everything that the CIA tells us is a lie. They say there's no torture program. That's a lie. They said that there were no secret prisons. That was a lie. They said that they weren't rendering prisoners to third countries to undergo torture. That was a lie. Now they want us, they said they weren't hacking the Senate's computers. That was a lie. Now they want us to take their word for it, that they're not using these malicious weapons against Americans.
And yet, everything they say isn't a lie. I mean, I grant you those.
These major issues.
But we need a CIA and we need an NSA.
Sure, without a doubt. But we need the NSA and the CIA to be targeting our enemies abroad, not to be collecting information on American citizens. And that's what we consistently bump up against.
Right, and to the extent that that gets done, that should be the role of the province of the FBI, presumably.
Of the FBI, exactly.
Although
right.
I'm guessing that they're probably using the same tools now. So, James, for the average person who, you know, probably most people are not in a circle where they're bumping up against anybody who would cause the CIA or the FBI or anybody else to be seriously looking at them. But still, there's this kind of creepy feeling, A. And B, a lot of people actually, I mean, you play the game, you know, 6 points of separation. A lot of people know somebody or are neighbors with somebody who might actually be the subject of something. How do people avoid their personal and private information getting hoovered up here?
Well, speaking generally, both the NSA and the CIA, not just these recent leaks, but particularly the NSA, which has that enormous capability to suck up everything from the points that where communications link, basically the major communications links. The problem is that they have these target lists, and a lot of the target lists have people on there that shouldn't be on there. I mean, there were 1 million people on the target list at one point. Yeah, I mean, that many terrorists.
Like the no-fly list?
The no-fly list and so forth. So, you know, the problem is that if you say the wrong word on the phone, or you communicate at the wrong place, you may be put on the list, and you won't know it until you're bumped off an airplane, or sometimes you won't know it at all. Your son or daughter applies for West Point or Annapolis or something, and they get turned down because they've looked up on the list, and you're on the list, and you're not told that that's why they're not going there. So there's a lot of things that, that people don't realize that they could be affected by this kind of
One of the big revelations, James, was that Signal Confide, that some of these encrypted products for personal communication that are probably, frankly, used more by, you know, teenagers in love or adults having affairs and things like that rather than spying, but that they're vulnerable as well. Is that very much the case?
Yeah, well, the whole idea is to make virtually everything vulnerable. You know, on the positive side, because of the Snowden leaks, there was a very big movement domestically to bring encryption into center stage, and everybody becoming aware that encryption is out there and you should use it. Plus, at the same time, it was made very user-friendly. It's much easier now for people to use encryption. So, and to some degree, these new leaks from Wikileaks of the CIA hacking tools kind of show that, because they're going after the individual phones, which shows because they're not able to hack an entire network if it's end-to-end encryption, right. So they have to go after the individual phone. So, right. I mean, that's sort of the bright side of the picture,
I guess, for the moment. Anyway. Yeah. John, we have about a minute and a half. These documents talk about the U.S. consulate in Frankfurt being a CIA hacking headquarters, essentially. What does that mean?
There are three holy of holies that you're told about when you first go to the CIA. Three things you can never talk about: sources and methods, liaison relationships, and anything having to do with the NSA. I think this would fall under sources and methods. And because of my previous trouble with the CIA, I think I should not respond to that question.
Okay. James, any thoughts on it? And
well, Frankfurt has always been a big hub for the CIA, the NSA. They've always had a huge hub there for intelligence.
Is it because there's great electronic infrastructure there, or is it because...
After World War II, that's where they put a lot of the... it's where they built a lot of that intelligence infrastructure there.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Germany couldn't say no.
Yeah, and I mean, Berlin had a fair amount, but it was Frankfurt was much easier to get to. It wasn't right. You didn't have to.
And it became West Germany because
Berlin
got divided. Remarkable. James, John, thank you both for being here with us tonight. It's been a fascinating conversation. And that's the way it is tonight. And don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. Get out there, get active, tag, you're it.